panelists, Brian Decadonu, Colin Zoidberg, MD, and Daniel, aka Dans. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hey.
Hello.
Well, guys, very exciting week, and we're also joined by Will, uh, Will, aka Chill Wang. Welcome, Will.
Thanks for having me.
Very awesome. Looking very snazzy. I see you dressed up. Got the good hair going.
Gotta adjust for the kitchen, though.
Yeah, Nutter Butters got to him. Said he had to dress up and dress the part if he was going to represent them on TV.
Very, very strange about that, Colin. You look very, very chilled out today.
Yeah, man. You know, it's a relaxing day.
Ooh. All right. For Twitch, go ahead and send any questions that you may have for Will or any of the analysts. We'll answer the questions after predictions. Come with the spice if you wish. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible this week. We're gonna go right ahead into the game results as well. So we're gonna start off with the with our two guests, Nutter Butter Scudlers versus XO, with a Nutter Butter Scudlers win. Will, why don't you take this clip for us and kind of take us through it?
Yeah, so this is our second week playing with Darren. Sorry, is the clip playing?
Not yet. It's one.
Okay, there it is.
It is.
So yeah, Darren's just kind of just showing off what he wants to do here. Tristana kind of jumps in. This is the jungle Tristana, by the way. Awesome kiting potential by Caitlyn here. Runs into the bush, drops the vision down. Nice binding by the Lux, but Lynch just picks up the kills here. Just overall great kiting from the Caitlyn.
Yeah, and it's been, really great to actually have our fifth member of our team instead of a sub every single week. He's been really great to, plan with and figure out like how we're drafting and how we're playing around him. And it's really shown throughout our teamwork the last few weeks. Did we lose him? I think we lost him.
Adam?
All right.
We got.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next game. Let's move on to the next clip.
Okay, very simple, very easy. We're gonna go with the Good Boys versus Milwaukee Bucks with a Good Boys win. Let's look at the clip.
Oh yeah, the Good Boys here had quite the resilient game where they were really far down, but Steven Kawasaki Ace on the Zed goes for a massive split push. That honestly, this is kudos to the Good Boys whole squad realizing, well, Zed's really fed, and if we can stop them from getting back, we can win the game. And this series overall was just a nail biter, and then we were like, okay, MBB is gonna win, it's fine, and then oh wait, what? It was quite satisfying.
That's the back door right there. Yeah, that's 3 really, really good performances on Zed from Kurosaki Ace?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
Also, this is the second split, right? Where the second game that he backdoored off of his team, preventing the backs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely shown up. He's definitely carrying his team right now, and yeah, they look good. They look strong. I think our predictions this week are gonna show that as well.
We're gonna go on to our next game, which is the Student Council versus Second Breakfast, with the Student Council victory. And would someone like to take this, or you want me to take it?
I think you should take it, man. Talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's give him a first.
All right, boys, get you hyphy. So we have Yone picked for the first time by Plobe. It looked like a fairly bad pick, I think, until we kind of waited until mid-game, where Ash Arrow was imperative to setting up multiple Yone pickoffs, teams being able to stun off. In this particular fight, we went ahead and tried to pick off the bot versus the Ari, which is manned by Yo Betty White, which did ridiculous work in the previous dragon fight, getting a triple. So we were really scared of the mid river. So we transferred more of the attack down to the bot and trying to be a little bit more decisive about it.
Yeah, honestly, there were a lot of plays off of your Ash ults, just setting up Plobe the Warrior on Yone to just dunk at least 1 to 2 people.
Yeah, the TSC comp was set up to scale, and like SB really couldn't take control like hard enough in the early game to snowball a lead, and so those Ash ults and Yone ults to stall their momentum and swing it in your favor really swung the whole game around.
Let's go on to the next game, which is Deep Dive versus Acid Rabbits with an Acid Rabbits win. And let's go ahead and get into this clip if someone wants to take it.
Overall, this game was very back and forth until it wasn't.
That seems to be the Acid Rabbits MO, no? Like they play pretty close and then
they find a means to break
Yeah.
the.
So the focus on this is the Shyvana right here, who just went to Dragon form. If you
Yep,
want
and-
to look, yeah, go ahead.
Mhm. Oh no, it looks like a losing fight for AR who are trying to run, and Shyvana is honestly the only one that really realizes, wait, I can do this, and she turns by herself and kind of just straight up 1v5s, can't go down even though Jinx is free hitting. She just can't go down. She kind of just runs down the whole team by herself.
Yeah, it's a monster. I mean, Shyvana can be, when she gets to that point, just an absolute beast to deal with.
Right, and the only healing reduction that Deep Dive had was actually on the Bramble Vest on their Ornn, who really wasn't hitting the Shyvana, especially near the end of the fight. So the Death Dance kind of just like did work on the rest of the team. I think in that fight, Jinx actually had QSS instead of Executioners, and that could have been one of the things that could have turned that around if the Executioners was on the Jinx instead. The Death Dance probably had a lot less of a impact in that fight, and maybe Shyvana goes down before she can turn just 1v5.
Yeah, it seems like more than ever, like healing reduction this season has been massively important, not only to like our league, but like professional leagues in general this year. I don't remember it being this important in the last few seasons, or at least this talked about. But it seems every week we're talking about, or the LCS or all other leagues are talking about healing reduction, and teams not buying it or buying it, correctly.
Yeah, we ended up seeing becoming more in handy. I tend to build it quite often, and you can kind of tell which champions need it. But let's go on to our next game for PIO, or Panic in Our Oceans, versus True Heart Destiny with the True Heart Destiny win. Dan, do you want to take this clip?
Sure. I mean, this is a straight up level 2 prio. We get level 2, and I immediately try and bully this and flay Not Drunk onto a Caitlyn trap, and he's dead. Like, there's nothing he could have done about it. Probably
Could've
flashed.
Could have walked onto a Caitlyn trap.
That's true. He could have made it even easier.
Yeah, I mean, level 2 advantage is a big deal. You got to respect it, especially in bot lane.
Yeah,
get
we took that lead and snowballed that throughout the rest of the map.
When just out of curiosity, when you're making your plans, how much emphasis do you put on, especially in the bot lane, with you and Man Butts, on getting the level 2 prio and pushing for that advantage? Is it more just it's there, we're gonna take it, or is it always in the plan to go for it?
We constantly are keeping track of who's going to get level 2, whether our lane opponents or us, and try to respond accordingly. If we know that they got there early or they're much better at shoving, we definitely give them space before they actually hit level 2, so we're not punished heavily.
Very awesome. Thank you so much. And let's go right into next week's predictions, which is going to be a little bit more solidarity here, except for the first game.
Really quickly, do we talk about the fact that me and Dan's are now tied? That I've caught up from my deficit?
Sorry, I took gambles. They didn't pay off. Intern Mayo.
Intern Mayo.
Got one hell of a hive mind this week.
Yeah. As a sidebar, just real quick, thank you so much, Mayo, which is the Great Flash, for being added onto our team and helping us with stats. And
Intern Mayo.
And
so I really appreciate it. For people who want to help us do bubble tea time, please let us know. It's there's a lot of work being done, especially by Chia Snacks, aka Elena, and Dan's doing a lot of stats. So if you get a chance, you should thank those guys through DMs or in general chat or in
Yeah.
Twitch
they're hard smurfing for sure.
for sure. So we're gonna start with our first matchup, which is PIO versus Panic in Our Oceans versus Nutter Bear Scudlers, where I'm the only one who chooses Panic in Our Oceans, despite them being above in the standings. Let's get an argument for one of y'all. Well, besides
Yeah,
Colin and Will.
I think you should start it off. Why Panic in Our Oceans? You're the odd man out. Why are you rooting
Uh,
against me, man?
Panic in Your Oceans is like they are a step above y'all in the standings, so everything else is going by that standard, right? I think that even though you got the stabilization, I think that PIO is just a little bit more stable just because they've had their team a little bit longer. Yeah, that's like really the main reason. I think that they're gonna be able to hold it off. Like just hold it off from y'all. Not to say that it won't be a competitive fight or it's gonna be a smash either way. Because I just think that like Amory and Nathan and I think Teddy are gonna just do really well. Teddy I think had a less than stellar performance this last game, but especially for his Maokai. Uh, but I think that was a one-off game, honestly. I think that Teddy usually plays really, really amazing, and sets the team up usually a bit better than that. And I think and we've said this before about other teams. I don't think they're gonna let that mistake happen again.
Yeah, I think like PIO. I think they're just saving stuff for playoffs. To be honest, like they've been doing some weird things in their games. The AD Kennen was kind of a stretch in that last game. Yeah, stuff like that. I think like once we hit playoffs, like I think Nathan and the rest of the PIO squad will probably shape up and take it a little bit more seriously. But in terms of like this game against NBS, I think NBS has just looked in form. With Limps joining, they have like a solid bot lane that's able to like take their leads and press them onto the map. And like I just think they're in better form right now. PIO is not a bad team, especially when Nathan and Marie like start buckling down and like really pushing the envelope in the playoffs. But I think for right now, like MBS is definitely in better form going into playoffs.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Yeah.
it's really on us to kind of end the game early. Every game that PIO has won has always gone to like the 40-15 minute mark. Stuff where Marie and Nathan have had time to scale. So it's really up to us to kind of end it before then, make sure that they don't get to that point. But I
For
think
sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be our game plan going forward, and or
Yeah.
at least for this game. And I think we've looked really good. Yeah, I'm excited to continue. And like this win, in theory, gets us to the top half of the bracket, which is where we want to be, or at least forces a tiebreaker for it. So we're really excited about that, and we're going to be
sure.
definitely trying really hard to get that double elim, because that'd be nice to have that little bit of
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah, I think the only danger is Nathan and Emery to an extent are both like really good insurance policies. So as long as they don't kick in, and NBS snowballs, which I think like I predicted them to win, so I think they can. I think it should be an NBS victory. I think this game goes like I don't think it's going to be a close game necessarily. I think it's either one sided NBS like runs them over, or they get late and then PO. Nathan and Amory just kind of take over. So I think it's going to swing one way or another at a certain point in the game, and then that'll be it.
All right, let's take a look at the next matchup, which is going to be the Student Council versus Executive Order with the unanimous Student Council. Thank you for coming back onto the side, Brian.
Yeah, I'm a shill.
I
I don't know.
Actually, I
TSC
really
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, go for it.
I mean, I think TSC is just a strong team. They won last week against SB in a series where they had like a draft that people didn't see coming, that didn't have like super strength in the early game. Like it was like a Yon into Renekton, and like There was like a lot of things set up against them, but they were able to stabilize, or you guys were able to stabilize in the mid game and then start rolling with your team that scaled better. And certain picks like Malzahar and stuff like that worked really well into some of their picks. So like, I think TSC just showed a interesting draft strategy that worked out, and like they should continue to show that against EXO as well.
Yeah, I was very close to picking EXO. I actually think this match is probably closer than the 5-0 prediction makes it seem. I don't think EXO is a bad team. What, you want me to swap it so you have a chance to win? So one of us,
Absolutely.
all right, I'll swap it. Let's go. I'll give it executive order. I'm saying it right here. Executive order is gonna win. Yeah, I think EXO has a really good chance of winning. It kind of depends on, like, I think they quite frankly like had us in a really bad position in our last game, and just a few mistakes here and there cost them that game. But I think that their team scaled better and they had pushed us into a late game situation where we didn't necessarily want to be. So I think they have a really, solid team, and I think they're ramping up for playoffs. And I don't think if they don't let that loss last week hold them back, I think they're a really strong team, and I do think that they can win.
And I think an interesting facet of it is EXO is currently, I think, locked into ninth. They lose certain head-to-heads and stuff like that, and win other head-to-heads to like against like say deep dive. So like I think they're actually locked in that spot. I'd have to look at it just to make sure, but so for the most part they're playing spoiler. TSC is looking like they're in the quagmire that is the middle of the pack in BTL, and they're kind of looking to see how far high up in the standings they can get to hopefully ensure like an upper bracket seed. So EXO in that sense, TSC has a lot more to fight for in this game than EXO. So I think that might be another piece that leads to TSC maybe having more motivation in this game, whereas EXO is kind of looking to playoffs and thinking about like who's their first matchup.
Javier, check your bank account.
Let's go.
Sorry, I do want to say I do think EXO is a very good team. We almost lost our game against them last week. They put up a very good fight. Captain Javier is also very proud of the Monday buff that his team gets. They are undefeated on Mondays, which is the day that their game is scheduled.
Yes, gotta respect the Monday buff.
But TSC has been looking more and more solid through the upcoming weeks, and that's why I think they're going to take it down.
I think the drafting is going to be so important again, EXO, because now they're starting to, even their kind of unique picks of like Lilia last week is quite dangerous. So it's kind of opening up their champion pool. So I think it'll be a very interesting game. But let's go on to the next one, which is Milwaukee Bucks baby versus Acid Rabbits with a unanimous Acid Rabbits pick, which I'm actually fairly surprised, especially because Milwaukee Bucks is higher in the bracket. You think you'd be maybe more of a toss-up?
No, Acid Rabbits
Acid
are
Rabbits is
7-1.
No, like in the upper the upper half.
Yeah,
I think
you think somebody would move for it.
This is the one I thought was pretty close.
Yeah, Brian's sleeping on the couch, so I mean we got that.
Yeah, this might be the first time I haven't voted for Milwaukee Bucks baby actually. But yeah, I mean I think
second time.
Maybe. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I guess us, of course. I think the Milwaukee Bucks baby has a ton of individual like talent and power. I don't think there's really like that many weak links, and they're also just like they have carry potential through Nick Mead and Elena. They're just like a strong team of individuals, but like they've been vacillating between putting it together and then like having it fall apart at the last minute. That game against Good Boys was honestly like very close to unlosable until they like kind of decided to lose it. So I think games like that where they have to shape up their late game decision making, like their games tend to be going late, and then like they come out of early game and mid game with the lead. And sometimes they are able to snowball that lead into a victory. Like Nick Mead gets really fed and kills everybody. Elena sets up big plays. Joe has really good positioning and like is able to set up big plays. Like sometimes they snowball to a lead, and then sometimes they get to that point in the game and they're like pretty strong or something, and then something really inexplicable happens, like a late game call just like throws everything out the window. And like yeah, I think honestly in a world where their late game shot calling was cleaner, that team probably should be in 6-2 or so. but they're not. And I think like against AR, a team that honestly just doesn't make that many mistakes, it's going to be pretty difficult to like go to the late game. And then a team that is prone to making a lot of mistakes versus a team that is prone to not making very many mistakes. You have to favor the latter.
Acid Rabbits, I think, is also a very solid team. They're 7-1 for a reason. They put up a very good fight. All of their laning, their basics are very solid. That's something that a lot of teams don't have. Usually, some teams have a weakness somewhere here and there. As far as I can tell, Acid Rabbits knows where they want to put their potential, and they know they want to make plays, and they're good at forcing that objective.
Yeah, for sure.
Are-
I do think it'll be a competitive game. Like
Mhm.
these are teams that are pretty strong. And like MBB, honestly, if MBB puts their stuff together and like fixes up their late game shot calling, they're like a really good team. They're like a top 3 level kind of team. But it's a growing process, and hopefully, like in the playoffs, they'll be able to put it together. But for now, after a week of like a pretty colossal throw, I think they'll still be reeling a little bit, trying to put together the pieces for a deep playoff run.
Yeah, and it's a tough matchup to end your season. It's they're facing the second best team or the best team in the league. Top of the standing. So
Perfect transition into the next match, which is Short Destiny versus Deep Dive. Mayan actually asking, why did all the analysts vote THD? And
why did we all vote
Um,
THD?
I mean, maybe I should have voted for DD. I don't know. Like what Adam will say. So here's the reality. If AR wins the day before, then this game has no bearing on anything. We're locked into second. They're locked into 10th. So for what it's worth, like in that scenario, like we're not going to show anything super special. Deep Dive probably won't either. We're just kind of this match probably
Playing
has
for
no bearing
fun.
on anything. So in a way, like this game could be like who knows? It could be a toss up at that point. But we're not gonna like. It's not like we're gonna just end game away. We're gonna do our thing and like, treat it as good practice and have good momentum going into playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, so that's part of it where I'm like, I don't really care who to vote for because I don't think it means anything. But if MBB pulls off what obviously our team hopes they pull off and upsets AR, then we have something to play for. We need to win this game to get first seed. So we will. Yeah.
a declaration. Very awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's top of the table versus bottom of the table, unfortunately. So this is a pretty standard prediction. Like, just going with the numbers on this one.
Will, do you think there's any argument to have for a Deep Dive? What they can pull out? Aurochs, Little Muffin, Wired, Jack Limestoners, Sky Song, anything that they can do, or anything that you may advise them to do to play against Short Destiny.
Deep Dive these past few weeks have really been relying on a Protect the Jack Limestone comp, which a lot of teams have noticed and picked up on. So it's a very good execution plan. Jack Limestone is a very solid player. He can execute that comp correctly. It's kind of up to the other team if they want to let them execute it, though. You only get 5 bans for each team. You can pick divers in each role if you want. And if you have 5 divers, Protect the Jack Limestone doesn't work anymore. So I think kind of approaching your weighted draft, find out if you still want to go through this comp, if you can still execute it, or if you want to try another strategy is probably the way to go against True Destiny.
I think that's actually very solid advice of these. Switch it up because it's very true that the Jack Limestone protection is pretty well known by now.
Yeah, and like even though we're playing against them, like I would really want to see them switch it up. I think their team has a lot of like hidden potential, like in Aurochs and stuff like that, and like their picks have been really like I've trended towards the Protect the Limestone / setup for Limestone comps, and like that hasn't been working in the last couple of weeks. So I think switching it up is really big for them, and going into playoffs, like I hope they do. If we see more variation from their team comps and see like I don't know, maybe like Aurochs on a splitter or something like that, or like I don't know, like a variety of things, maybe like Wired on a true damage dealer, I don't know, stuff like that. Like maybe we'll see a different look from DD, and that'll probably catch people off guard. So I'm hoping we see that too. Probably not in this game. If it means nothing to them, even if we win or lose, like maybe they don't want to show those strats. But in the future.
Mhm. All right. See. Go on to our last matchup, which is Good Boys versus Second Breakfast. I believe it's for the same reasons. Good Boys at the top of the bracket, Second Breakfast in near middle bottom. SB did put up a pretty good game, but Good Boys was I believe the first person to upset Acid Rabbits.
Yeah.
The only team that has upset Acid Rapids. Yeah, I think Good Boys are really strong. That's why I picked them. I also think Second Breakfast can be a very, very strong team. And it wouldn't shock me if they win, especially because I feel like there's some extra heat behind this one, knowing it's Misa versus Steven. So if Misa pops off, he shows up hard that game. It's gonna
Yeah,
be
I
could
think
be a
if
really close matchup.
I think if Second Breakfast can get an early lead in the top side of the map that they can bring elsewhere, they definitely can have a strong chance to win.
Hmm.
I think a little bit of everyone wants a piece of Steven from Second Breakfast.
Yeah, and like maybe we're a little bit overhyping Good Boys. Like they're towards the top of the table, but they've also had 2 victories that are base races, right? Like backdoors, which means that they have to be in that position to get to that point. So like those you stop those base races, you stop those backdoors, all of a sudden their record looks a little bit different. So maybe we're a bit overhyping them.
Mm,
Yeah, they're a good team, but I'm not. Yeah, I think like in a way their multiple look strategy, like leads to a lot of like one-off wins and stuff like that. But I'm curious what they'll look like in best of threes and stuff like that if they'll continue trying to go with like multiple looks within the same series, stuff like that. In terms of like their roles and like trying to bait where Steven's going and all that stuff.
I think Second Breakfast has a really good shot against Good Boys if they can just contain Steven. Make sure he doesn't get kills all across the map. Make sure he stays in his lane if that's possible. And just try to keep him under control, and you have a very solid shot at victory.
I think, interestingly enough, I think like MBB versus Good Boys wasn't actually like a game of containing Steven as much as it was like playing their game. Like I think MBB, obviously at the end like things went downhill, but like in a world where they had like backed off, kept the Mountain Dragon, waited for the Baron to like drop off, like their team has Mountain Dragon to the Zed Olaf team. Like it's really hard to lose at that point. And I think to get to that point, MBB didn't just think, "Oh, we need to watch for Steven. We need to watch for Steven." I think Steven still made some plays, like they're pretty fancy plays, but MBB played their game and like they focused on the lanes where they wanted to focus. Nick Mead, even though like Nick Mead and actually Joe, even though they're into like a Zed Olaf and like dive combo, they played like Caitlyn Cassiopeia, which isn't usually the greatest combo against it. And they both actually did pretty well. And so like I don't know. I think people might get too swept up in thinking, "Oh, how do we stop Steven?" But in reality, it might just be best to like, hey, like what plan you have, like play it out, play your game, and just like win using your win conditions. Like be comfortable with your team's identity.
with that, let's go on to our questions for today. We have, if you have any more, I think we do have time for a couple more. But from PJ, what's everyone's thoughts on Yone? Is it going to be a one-off pick? Do you think we only are going to see it this one time? We're going to see it maybe this week again. And also, let me toss that out for Lilia as well.
Lily is definitely going to get played more. That champion is so fun, and it fits a lot of different team comps. And she can be played mid and top and jungle, so it opens up a lot of different doors. Especially if you're picking it early, you can flex it, and people won't exactly know where it's going. So I definitely think that's going to get played more. Yone is probably going to get played more too. There's a reason why he's banned for Worlds. He's also pretty strong and around the right team comp, and with more weeks to get comfortable with him. I especially think we'll start seeing him either banned out or played more in the playoffs.
Yone is a very strong pick, but I don't think the meta right now really has adjusted to him. He plays very similarly to Yasuo and more of an assassin. Yasuo can definitely do more sustained team fights than Yone, I think. So if you have like if you want something to just dive the backline, get out quick, Yone is definitely better than that, better than Yasuo for that. But it needs to go against the right team comp to work out correctly. If you're up against a team of 5 tanks, it's not going to be the easiest thing to get something done with Yone.
All right. We have another question from Chia Snacks. Do you think red side or blue side is stronger in BTL in particular, and why?
Oh,
I think blue side is a lot stronger. In BTL, you have a lot of people who depend on comfort picks, and getting that first pick is essential for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not like, in LCS, I also think like in LPL and LCS and all these pro regions, like counter pick is really important right now. And like I would say right now that red side is probably stronger in pro play, because of the lack of a true like B1 like power pick. But that isn't the case in BTL. Like we're not pros, and I think it really shows in how we pick ban. I think Will's totally right. Like a lot of people just have comfort picks. Like we would pick something that would never see the light of day in like a B1 pick for pro. And I think like when you have blue side, you have a lot of ability to kind of shape your comp and deny a lot of picks that the other team, like if 2 players share the same comfort pick, then B1 is amazing for you. And with that said, I think like a lot of the players just don't have the champion pools to do like correct like counter picks. Like when you are sitting on like an R5 pick, like and they've picked, I don't know, Renekton or something like that or whatever. Like does that player have with the R5 pick, do they play Quinn? Do they play Kalista? Do they play like, do they play whatever counter pick that there might be? I just don't know if that's the case for most teams. So with that said,
And
I think Will's right. Blue's better.
yeah, and not just like do they play it, but does their team know how to play around that specific counter pick?
Mhm.
Yeah. I completely agree.
I think that's it's such an interesting thing of the difference between pro play and BTL, especially with people who are in the industry like Brian and Colin. Um, and a question for myself. I was curious of how the stats have been looking. Dance, is there anything that's been a little bit more out there by some of the teams, or an individual player that's just been like, oh man, they're doing super well, or having something very strange about them?
So my own personal competition with Asian Problems for highest assists on support. I don't know. I think everybody's able to look at my leaderboard that I have for most of the stats. I do have my own separate like team stats, and I'll say that our team has the highest kills per minute, by a significant margin.
So what you're saying is you play
what their
fast and
team-
loose and are easily exploited.
Mm.
Yeah, I think just looking at the schedule now, I think blue side I think after like week 3 or something, it was actually 50-50 like straight up between blue and red. But now that
Mhm.
we're sitting at the end of week 8 and the start of week 9, I think it's like pretty blue sided now. We can do the math, it's pretty easy, but like it looks like it's a solid at least like 60% blue side now. So
Mm.
for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think another stat that people can highlight is team percent damage, like the damage that they do for their team. And some teams you can see how well they stock up like their soul lanes and their AD carry or their jungler in some situations, and whether a team seems more of a triple threat versus a double threat.
Very awesome. This is something that I wanted to bring up just so teams can, especially going into the finals, can take a look at. Like I said, Dan's, Brian, and Mayo have been working on the stats. So use that to your advantage. I think it's going to become a little bit more important, especially when we're going into these triples. So let's go on to standings, which our standings are Acid Rabbits and True Heart Destiny vying for first with 7-1. Good Boys on their own in third for 5-3. Milwaukee Bucks, Panic in Our Oceans, and Student Council at 4-4. Second Breakfast and Not a Better Scuttlers at 3-5. Executive Order at 2-6. And Deep Dive at 1-7. And our schedule.
Oh, it's a clusterfuck in the middle of the
Yeah,
standings.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be crazy
Really
to
is.
see how that
If
shapes up.
if everything plays right, Student Council could get third place, right, Adam?
I
Yeah,
believe. Give me
it's-
that third place, boys. Everyone else needs to lose.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here, and like we're not gonna make a foldy sheet to encompass them all, but it should be really exciting week 9 to see like how everybody shakes down. We might have some tiebreaker scenarios we'll have to confront, but yeah, I don't know. I think like the people on the rise are probably like GB and TSC. See where they go. NBS is on the rise too. I think they'll probably break up into the top like half of the bracket. So
Fingers crossed.
it should be a good week.
Let's go into schedules, which is
That I believe is last week's.
that is last week's.
Up.
So, well,
We
small
have
technical
technical difficulties and they're being swapped.
No worries. Heck yeah.
Close enough.
The match recap.
Well, that's why we have this fun of doing it live, boys.
Boom. Nope.
Let's see. I can maybe just go ahead and get it from our announcements. So,
Look at our beautiful logos. So beautiful.
They are so
That's-
beautiful.
That's true.
I really like Second Breakfast.
Yeah, Second Breakfast's logo is so good.
Oh man, do we have to have a logo vote off?
I like not like saying because it's our own team. Like I think MBS's is also really good.
Oh, here
There.
we
I
go.
think second breakfast is
There
the
we
best.
go.
I'm just putting this out there. Second Breakfast and THD both have upside down triangles or whatever, the same triangle in the background. So does that make us sister teams?
Yes, that's
I
exactly
mean,
I'm
we
okay with
have me and Misa on either
There we
side.
go, brother teams.
I do like the legacy of the Good Boys and Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks one I think is very sassy looking.
I do find it interesting that the two people that named the Good Boys are not on the Good Boys this year.
As it turns out. But let's go ahead with the schedule. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's gonna be the Student Council versus Executive Order. On Thursday, it's gonna be Milwaukee Bucks versus Acid Rap at 7 p.m. And at the same time, Second Breakfast versus the Good Boys at 7 p.m. So we'll have another doubleheader.
Right. We'll have a stream and a pre-record, I guess, but Discord stream in both chats.
Mm.
So
On
Good choice.
Friday, we have THD, which is To Our Destiny, versus Deep Dive at 7 p.m. And it's going to be announced for PIO and Not a Better Scuttlers or Panic Narrations versus Not a Better Scuttlers as they do their scheduling.
Yeah, we have a lot of people on both teams out for vacation this week, so it made it a little bit difficult to schedule games, but we'll get
For
one
sure.
in eventually.
Well, very awesome. Then we're going to go real quick. We do have time. We'll start with Brian. What is your most anticipated match?
I mean, our match might be useless, so not our match. XO match means something for you guys, but not for XO really. So I'm thinking it's got to be one of the Thursday matches. Oh man, both of them are pretty good. I don't even know which one our H stream is. gonna
And
hit.
they're both at the same time.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna definitely say the first one actually. Milwaukee Bucks versus AR. It's the only match that means anything for THD. So it's the only match we're gonna pay attention to in that sense. And like I guess from a THD perspective, Milwaukee Bucks baby. But yeah, we'll see how that game goes. And I think that time slot should be a banger time slot because if I didn't pick that team or that matchup, I would have picked the other matchup at the same time slot. So
Colin?
For me, it's going to be Second Breakfast versus the Good Boys. Along with our game, I believe that if we win our game against PIO and Second Breakfast loses to the Good Boys, we are guaranteed top bracket. So that is why it's my most anticipated. It's also one of the closer matchups in terms of standings. They're only one game apart. Or maybe they might be two. Second Breakfast is tied with us, I believe.
They're two. Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 games apart, but like I think that's actually the closest in standings for matchups this week. So I think that's really interesting as well. They're both really good teams. Would both have a really strong carry. So it's gonna be let's see who pops off.
Dan?
I'm gonna say TSC versus EXO because I want to see how Javi and company spoil TSC's chances of upper bracket.
What the heck? That's spicy, dude.
It's the
That's-
captains, dude. The captains. They're gonna come at you hard, man.
Look, I appreciate the captains. I appreciate Captain Javier, but declaration right now, gonna win, 100%. Going
I'm
to
the
make
only one that believes in XO because I swapped my prediction over to them. I'll make a wager with you.
Ooh.
We'll discuss that in a little bit, Colin. But I do believe in our team, and we'll do some discussions. Will, how about you?
I'm up in the air between TSC and EXO and Milwaukee Bucks versus Acid Rabbits. King's Flame Bang is always fun to watch. He's one of those junglers that. So the thing about junglers is you have to do stuff that your opponents can't predict that you'll do. And King's Swing Bang does stuff you'll never think of doing. He'll go on Tristana, he'll dive tier 3 towers to try to kill someone. And that just makes all their games exciting to watch. But I think Milwaukee Bucks maybe and Acid Rabbits is going to be a very well thought out match. They're going to be playing very tightly, very closely, and they're going to try to make as few mistakes as possible.
All right. I'm gonna probably go with the Milwaukee Bucks versus Acid Rabbit. For mine, I think this is gonna be just a high class playing. I think it's gonna look really good. Well, Brian, Colin, and Dan, thank you so much for joining us once again this week at Bubble Tea Time.
You're welcome. I had
Always.
nothing better to do.
Thank you, gracious
Cool.
host.
And Will, thank you so much for joining us and bringing your insight to the stream.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone on Twitter who's watching in the VODs, thank you so much for taking your time to watch, and we'll see you on the Rift.